Hello, wait. Oh, messed that up. Great start. Just reset me.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Incompetent Nerds. I am your host, Mark, along with my good buddy Tank. And we have a special guest for you today. The one and only best friend of mine since college, at least 2012. So going on 7 years now. Cody Shinneman. Cody, say what's up.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you for joining us.
Of course.
So Cody he's an avid podcast listener, but we thought it would be awesome to have him on the show, A, because he's my friend, and B, because we want to know what he's a nerd about. But more importantly, he's our first guest who is a non-artist. So, Cody, why don't you just tell the lovely people a little about yourself, if that's not a broad enough question for you.
Yeah, it's a bit broad, but I'll jump right in. So I was born in Florida, raised in Colorado, spent most of my life there, and then went to Flagstaff, Arizona, and Northern Arizona University, where I met Marc for college. I got a degree in chemistry and criminal justice. I'm currently working at a forensic toxicology lab, which sounds a lot more fun than it is, but it's a good work, and spent a lot of time outside. I've got a lot of passions that involve me getting outside. I think that's a good little intro.
Yeah, that is. What made you get into chemistry forensic? Chemistry science. I'm already plugging over here. Yeah, chemistry science.
That's actually a good question, because actually most of the way through high school I was taking all those AP classes and hard stuff, but I was taking mostly stuff that I would think would lead me to a career in music. So much for me not being an artist. Most of my time through high school I was thinking I was going to go into music composition, and then my senior year of high school, I had a forensic science class, and my teacher was amazing, and I just kind of fell in love with all the things I learned about how you can figure out these crazy things just from something you see, days or hours or weeks later, just from the forensic evidence, and fell in love with the idea of being able to solve puzzles. After a time. So I decided I wanted to go into that sort of work, and that's when I decided to study chemistry. It was quite a leap going from music to chemistry, but I made it through. Kind of a leap,
yeah. Reminds me when I was going. My original plan was to be a high school history teacher, and instead I went to school to be a game designer. That didn't work out. I should have went for a high school history teacher.
Yeah, I always think it's crazy that you still know so much about history, and then you ended up in IT.
Yeah, I know. Somebody should slap in the back of the head.
Don't worry, teaching kids isn't all it's cracked up to be.
That is true. I taught adults. I did. I was a teacher assistant. I taught adults, and I wanted to throw a book at them. And that's adults.
Can't imagine it'd be a whole lot better with kids.
No, it'll be a whole desk.
Tank and I obviously have talked about how we met and became close. Why don't you share how you and me met and became close?
Oh boy, what a story that is.
I'm interested.
Me and Marc throughout college have always been we were always best friends as it came down to like romantic advice and talking to each other about girls and all that stuff. And I think it all started when I had a real rough weekend with a girl that I fell head over heels for, and you meet on a Friday and you're head over heels by Sunday, and we stopped talking by Monday. So I met Marc a weekend after that, and we met at a mutual friend's party in college, and I'd had a couple drinks, and Marc, being the outgoing guy he is, walks up to me and he says, "It's Cody, right?" And I said, "Yeah," and we introduced each other, and the first question he asked is, "All right, Cody, tell me your life story." And, my response was, "It all started last weekend when," and went on to tell him about my insane weekend with this girl, and turned out the next, that was a Saturday, and Marc and I exchanged numbers, and Sunday morning I woke up to a text message, barely remembering the conversation, to Marc saying, "Well, you said we were going to go on a hike, so let's go on a hike." And so Sunday morning I went and picked Marc up. We were both hung over a little bit, and we went on a hike, and that started a long-standing tradition in college where we would go on a hike very nearly every single weekend. Always getting outside.
Yeah. Nice. Well, it's a lot better story than mine's and Marc's. That was fucking awesome. Ain't that right, Marc?
Yeah, but I feel like they still kind of both started the same way. I was the one who just like made himself look silly, and then you guys were like, this guy's pretty cool. So I guess I'll keep him around.
Well, yeah, wow. That is an interesting story. That's a real good one, though. I gotta say, I like that one.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Good little bromance built on that.
Yeah, exactly. And I always felt that like, Cody, you were someone who helped me like explore the outdoors, quote unquote, because I grew up in the city, suburbs, and like LA is not like, people don't think of the outdoors when you think of Los Angeles. So I definitely needed guidance in terms of like, what do you do? What do you bring on a backpacking trip? Or like, what should your camelback have? Because like I knew nothing, and Cody helped me basically start from square one. But why don't could you share like a little bit of how you got into like your outdoor self beyond like your passion of chemistry, obviously?
Right. So growing up, I mean, I'm the youngest of three kids. My parents were both really into the outdoors. We went camping a lot growing up, and I have an older brother who joined the Boy Scouts or the Cub Scouts when he was really little, and of course, being the little brother, I wanted to follow in his footsteps, so I went on right behind him and joined. We started out as Tiger Cubs, and learned all that not so fun stuff in the Cub Scouts, and then you get up to Boy Scouts and you actually start learning some cool stuff. But yeah, all through elementary, middle, and high school, the Boy Scouts was a big part of my life, and I ended up getting my Eagle Scout. I got like the Eagle Scout of the Year award in Colorado. So scouting was definitely the big assist, the big gravity assist that I had that pulled me toward just the love of the outdoors. I also started soccer when I was 4 years old, which of course is a sport we mostly play outside, and just having that exercise component of like getting out and getting your energy out and getting your frustrations out from the day and getting out and having an outlet outdoors for that, I think also pulled me towards just like a love of the outdoors and getting outside as much as I can.
What did you like? I don't think I've ever asked you this. What did you actually like practically learn in scouts? Like when you were more so when you were in high school, like what were their like pillars or like what they like tried to drill into everybody? I mean,
right, so like getting into that upper end of scouting, you mean? Like not like the stuff you learn when you first join, like you're learning your knots and you're learning all that, you're learning all the typical stuff people think about. Yeah,
you put on some boots and you go outside. That's basically a hike. So like,
right, yeah. So scouting is interesting in that way. So in order to get the Eagle Scout, there's actually required merit badges. So you need to get certain merit badges in order to achieve certain ranks, and then there's unrequired ones, but you need like a certain amount of the unrequired ones. So it's like you have to take, life saving. It's where it's, that's like a lot of like water sports and, basically being a lifeguard and being comfortable in the water. And then you have to do like one of the three of like running, bicycling, or there's one other, cardio exercise type thing. But then there's also stuff that's like, they're really interesting badges in retrospect, but at the time they were like the most boring ones that everyone hated was like citizenship in the community, citizenship in the country, and citizenship in the world. So you actually, you learn about, being a citizen in your community and, going to a town hall meeting and all that weird stuff. And then in your country and you learn about voting and all that stuff. And then in the world and you learn about like environmentalism and, trying to make the world a better place. So there's a lot of different components that you learn through scouting. But then there's also stuff where you get into high adventure, which is, I took you backpacking, so you know all about high adventure in Canyonlands, Utah. But I've done all sorts of high adventure stuff where, that's learning on the fly. They throw you in the deep end and see if you can swim. So like one high adventure camp I did was Philmont, where we did I think it was an 84-mile backpacking trip over the course of 12 days. That was a whole lot of fun, and it was a whole lot of hardship, and it was, it was a fantastic experience. And then we also did Sea Base, where you jump on a sailboat in the south coast of Florida, and you sail to Key West and back, and you snorkel 2 or 3 times a day. But on both those trips, there's no showers. You're with a bunch of teenage boys, and you're all getting gross and sharing stories. And I think a big part of it is just you learn how to interact with people and have a good time socially. And that's something that's really underrated about scouting.
Yep, that happened.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're still good. You're
It
still good.
switched to your...
My controller turned...
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, yeah, my controller turned off automatically. There we go. It's back.
It's good.
Let's try and jiggle a joystick every once in a while and keep it on.
That didn't sound right. I'll be that idiot to remind you, hey, don't forget to jiggle your joystick.
Thanks, wink, wink.
Oh, man. But to go back, when I was younger, I always wanted to join the Boy Scouts, but never happened. Just hearing all that, like, kind of reminds me back. So when I was a kid, watching, like, the commercials and stuff, to do the whole, like, Boy Scout thing, and all of it was always about adventures. But to tell you the truth, my ass would not have survived. 1, too big of a city boy, and 2, too much of a clean freak. Even when I was a kid, teenager, young age, I was always organized. I always had to smell good, a shower. And I swear to God, my first day there, without having a shower, I'll probably be going nuts.
Well, I mean, that's stuff you learn in the Scouts, man, because, I mean, I don't know if you remember the Scout law, but a Scout's trustworthy, loyal, hopeful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful. Oh, man. How many times I've recited that? But one of those points is clean. So you learn how to be clean in body, but you also learn how to be clean in mind and stuff like that. And that's part of like the law that you're supposed to think about every day and really like incorporate into your life.
Yeah.
Choose not to jump in the mud if there's not going to be a shower nearby.
Oh man.
But then I'm sure 14-year-olds still did it anyway.
Oh yeah.
Of course.
Oh yeah. That's part of that learning experience.
Oh, man. So, Marc, should I be thanking Cody for when we did our little hike in the Hollywood Hills?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like hiking in Los Angeles is very different than like hiking in other places. I mean, the only other place I've hiked is like Utah and Arizona. But, I mean, LA is very urban. So, like, you're hiking basically just in dirt paths that were identified as like these are the places we're gonna have people hike. But I mean, in other places it's very like you have to stay on the trail, and if you go off the trail, like that could be dangerous or like life threatening potentially, because like there are dangers off of the trail.
And also
well, you
LA.
think about it in LA, you're like you fall and roll your ankle you probably got people 10 minutes away that can come help you
Yeah.
out. Whereas, Canyonlands, Utah, where I took Mark on his first backpacking trip, that place is famous for the movie 127 Hours, where the guy fell down that crevasse and rock smashed his arm and he had to cut it off in order to get out and survive. So a little bit different when you're stuck, when you hurt yourself in a LA trail and you hurt yourself in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, that was definitely an adjustment. Cody knew I was done by the end because like I always find something to say, and like by the last day I was just like dead silent.
Silent. I had never heard Mark be silent for 20 minutes straight before.
Yeah. Me neither. Me and him are very, very talkative, and when there's silence between us, that's when I know something's off. For example, when we came to Chicago, I took him to a deep dish place, Pisano's. People go check that place out. And the whole time he's eating, he's just quiet. And I'm like, this is not Mark. Even when he's eating, he talks to me. So before I can even break the silence, he just tells me, it's just an inverted pizza, right? I'm like, yeah, it's fucking genius. And then goes back to be quiet. I'm like, well, he's enjoying this food.
That literally took me so long to like figure it out because I was like sitting there. I was legitimately thinking like, why is Chicago pizza so special? Like there's got to be one reason, right? And then I'm thinking, well, like the sauce is on top and then the cheese and then the toppings are kind of at the bottom with the crust. So like it's basically upside down. So like got to be on to something here.
See, I'll always be an advocate for Colorado-style pizza. It's Bojo's. You got to go to Bojo's.
What the hell is that? I've never even heard of Colorado pizza. You never even told me Colorado had a style of pizza.
Oh, man. They call it Colorado-style pizza. They also call it a mountain pie. It's basically a deep dish pizza, and the crust on the outside is like a rolled dough, like a spiral rolled dough. And on each table, they have a bottle of honey. So you just like pump the crust full of honey afterwards. So you like after every slice, you have a little mini dessert. It's crazy.
What the heck?
Yeah, we'll have to go there. We have to go to Colorado, and we gotta go to Bojo's, man.
That's so crazy.
It's something else.
Well, I heard of Detroit, I heard of New York, and Chicago. Never heard of Colorado. And that's
a new one.
It's just one franchise. It's just one franchise, and there's only like 5 or 6 of them across the entire state.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's great though. It's great.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Tank, you got a question?
Sure.
What else you got? You got a fancy one. I know it.
Your passion back when you were talking about in high school and how you were falling into music. Do you still have like a passion towards music? Do you play any instruments? Do you record yourself? Things of that nature?
It's definitely died out in recent times, and it's probably died out just due to lack of time and my devotion to my other passions, which led me more outdoors. But through high school and middle school, even I played all sorts of instruments. I played some guitar when I was really young, but it didn't last long. And then I actually started with an instrument a lot of people that haven't been in orchestras and stuff haven't even heard of, called a bassoon.
Oh God, I know what a bassoon is.
Yeah. So I actually started on bassoon. That was my first instrument that I stuck with. I actually stuck with that all through high school, middle school, and high school. And then in high school, we had marching band half the year and concert band half the year. So you couldn't march with a bassoon. So they were like, well, what other instruments do you want to play? And I started picking up bass guitar. I picked up the djembe, which is an African hand drum that I started doing.
Dude,
so
I
did
knew
all sorts of stuff. Yeah, I did all sorts of stuff in high school. But most of that stuff's died out. I still have my bass guitars, and I still fiddle with them from time to time, but I definitely don't write as much as I used to, and I don't perform and do any of that stuff anymore. And honestly, it's just a big part of that's rock climbing. Like, my hands are too beat up after 3 hours of rock climbing to come home and, slap at the bass, as people would say. I can't do both. It's one or the other. So,
can you still write music?
I could probably write some music. Yeah, I mean, one of those AP classes I took in high school was AP Music Theory, and I swear to God, that one was way harder than AP US History. That was way harder than AP Stats. That was way harder than AP Psych. Music Theory was far and beyond way harder than the other ones.
That's so crazy.
And it was funny too, because when you talked about music, in my head, I'm like, this man looks like he either plays the guitar or plays the drums. I was like one of those two options, and it just dropped to the bass.
Yeah, it's just like any white person from Colorado, like, or Canada needs to be in a rock band. They just all look like.
Oh man. Well, that kind of leads to the rock climbing portion. I'm afraid of heights. I can't do rock climbing. I did just whatever wall climbing, and I freak out once I'm at least one story up. But that's just me.
That's not abnormal, man. That's not abnormal at all. I mean, everyone starts somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, rock climbing's been a big passion of mine. Actually, since that girl that led to me talking to Marc at that party. She was actually the one that introduced me to rock climbing. That's obviously one of the reasons that weekend was so special with her. But I actually started climbing seriously in college. I started in high school with a soccer coach that kind of told me, like, hey, this is a good way to cross train and get your upper body toned and get your core toned. And so I started a little bit in high school, but didn't really take it all that seriously. And then in college, I really picked it up and started going 2 or 3 times a week. And I'm at the point now where if I don't go 2 or 3 times a week, I start feeling weaker by the day until I go again. But yeah, it's a great hobby and a great way to, like, stay active, and a great way to not just go to the gym and lift, which I've never been able to stick with a routine of going to the gym and lifting to staying fit. So rock climbing was my path to really enjoying my workouts enough to do it 3 times a week and really stick with it.
Yeah, that's interesting because, like I said before, I'm afraid of heights. I did a wall climb once, and it was through I was in high school and through this program, and it was to, like, break your fears or whatever. So me being afraid of heights, and everybody knew, like, you got this, you could do this. And this structure was about 2.5 stories, I think, tall. So I'm climbing it, and I'm doing well. I hit the halfway point. I'm like, okay, cool, I'm almost there. Then my foot slipped, and when I went to go ahead and put my foot back on, I looked down, and no bullshit. For those who are afraid of heights, do know this. Just the bottom of the floor, you just see everything starts to get higher and higher and higher. Like in the movies, like
it's
that.
Like a movie, and it extends over a couple seconds. Yeah,
for somebody who fears that, like, you see that, and I clutched that wall. People are screaming at me like, you got this, you could do it. And I'm just like, no, I'm at the verge of tears because my fear of heights was now just kicked in. At first I had it to the point that I just went back down. I'm like, I couldn't. I walked away from the whole entire group. I was, like, chilling by some trees, and I'm just breathing. And the major thing why I walked away was because I was crying, and I'm 18 years old, surrounded by, and it's the middle of summer in the wilderness with a bunch of cute chicks, and I'm like, I just embarrassed myself.
Climber girls or something else. I know.
But I feel like
Tank, that just means you're a boulderer, man. That just means you're a boulderer. Which, I mean, that's part of me nerding out on climbing, is like there's all this weird language that, I talk to somebody that doesn't climb about climbing, and like half the conversation just goes right over their head.
Yeah.
Because there's language that you just never would hear unless you're a rock climber. Yeah. And, so like bouldering is, some people might know this. It's somewhat in that, like, on that fine line of common knowledge of bouldering is basically it's rock climbing when you don't have any safety gear, but you kind of stay under that 10 to 15 foot mark.
Yeah.
You usually have big old crash pads and just the stuff to make your landing softer if you're to fall.
Yeah.
And then there's more about, like, going, like, across versus, like, going up.
Well, there's traversing, which is going across, and then there's vert bouldering, and then there's also stuff like slab bouldering, which is when the wall is facing slightly away from you, so it's a little bit easier, or it's forward facing, so you're actually like leaning forward, which sounds a lot easier, but then once you get into higher level climbing, it's like, okay, it's a slab, so it's leaning forward, but you also have something the size of like tip of a pencil to stand on, because there's you have no edges to stand on because you're leaning forward, so you can actually balance with like almost no edge. And then there's roof climbing, which is really popular out in Flagstaff because we actually have like a world-renowned bouldering area called Pre-Straw out here, where you can go out there and find a different roof, and roof is exactly like it sounds. It's like you climb up probably 3 or 4 or 5 feet, and then it just goes straight back on you. So you're climbing completely upside down, horizontal. So that's roof climbing. And then there's all sorts of stuff. And, probably my favorite trip ever, if I ever had to say I had like one favorite trip of climbing, it's deep water soloing, which... if anybody, or I know, free soloing has been kind of made famous by that new movie that came out a little while ago with Honnold and his ascent of El Cap. Have you seen that yet, Tank?
Oh, no, I haven't seen that yet.
I highly recommend it, even for non-climbers, because it is absolutely insane. But it's a really cool documentary. Free soloing is when you climb with no safety gear at all. So he doesn't have a rope, he doesn't have a parachute. All he's got is his chalk bag, his climbing shoes, his shorts, and his shirt, and he climbs the entire mountain that way, and it's insane.
That's so nuts.
Yeah, so he kind of made free soloing pretty famous, so most people know what free solo means now, but deep water soloing is very similar, where you don't have any safety gear, but you do it in like creeks or lakes where the climbing area is directly over a really deep water, and so your safety gear is... if you need to, you just jump off and dive in. So there's a good little area near Winslow, Arizona, where I do that almost every summer and go out there and you canoe out to the rock wall, and you step right out of the canoe onto the rock wall, climb a good 30, 40, 50 feet, and then you cliff jump off the top once you get to the top.
Yeah, I'm good. I'll be the guy in the canoe recording. I'll be the guy. I'll be like, Marc, Cody, go ahead. I'll be right here recording y'all with a sandwich in my hand, and I'll have the beers cooled off by the time y'all jump down. So you gotta be good.
See, I knew Cody was gonna be extreme. He doesn't think he's extreme, but like he's pretty fucking extreme.
No, that's all normal, isn't it?
Oh man, just like thinking about it too, is just like, oh god, now my fear heights is kicking in.
See, I mean, everyone starts there too. Like it's not like when I first started, I wasn't afraid of heights and I was just fearless from the get go. Like you gain confidence in your own ability, you gain confidence in the safety gear you're using. It all starts somewhere, and you just you learn to trust the rope, you learn to trust your belayer, you learn to trust yourself. So
yeah, the last time I gained confidence was when I went up to the Sears Tower, now known as the Willis Tower in Chicago, and I passed out on the top floor. I was like 14, 15 with my father. We were all there, and he told me, come out the window. I'm holding the wall. I'm hugging the wall. I'm like, I can't. He's like, just come on. So I'm like, built up the courage. I'm like, I got this. Walked towards the end, walked towards the window, looked, and poof. That's all I remember.
That's all I remember.
I'll never say I don't get vertigo seeing some of those crazy videos of like those Russian dudes just climbing buildings and skyscrapers and like hanging off the sides and stuff. I still get vertigo too. Yeah. Like it doesn't go away just because you get confidence in yourself. Like, and free solo will bring that out in you too. Like it's a great documentary. I highly recommend.
Definitely look it up and check it out.
Is that why Tank you never took me on any of the skyscrapers in Chicago?
Yeah, that's when we went to the John Hancock and you're like, come on, let's do it. I was like, oh god.
Oh, look at the line. It's so expensive.
I was like, that's what I said. My man, dude, that line is long, and man, look at the prices. They're expensive. You're like, yeah, that's not. I was like, dang, Fucking Lord.
we did a boat tour, a boat architecture tour of Chicago, and that was literally one of the highlights because when we got out of the river and you got to see, like, we were on the lake and you could see the angles, like the Sears Tower is like basically tilted, and you're just like, how is that possible? And then other skyscrapers are like skinny at the bottom and then they get super fat at the top. And I was like, that would give anybody some concerns if they had to work up at that top floor every day.
Oh, yeah. All I gotta say is there's a reason that the Egyptian pyramids are still standing. They figured it out. They already did it for us.
Yeah.
Big at the bottom, skinny at the top. Come on.
They did the math.
But yeah, a lot of those buildings tend to sway as well. I've been in several tall buildings, and after a while, you get used to it. But in the beginning, you feel the sway, and that is the most craziest feeling. Especially when you get up to like real tall buildings. Right? Yeah, because of the high winds up there. Especially when you go up that high. So, Cody, Marc, next time if you guys are in Chicago, I recommend me, because I'm afraid of heights. I'll probably just chill right at the base waiting for y'all. But go up there, check it out, look all over through, the city, but you will also feel, because of the high winds, the building will sway. The Sears Tower was built on top of what you call those, some shot,
shot like for an earthquake.
Yeah, like it's built.
What is it called? Retrofitted buildings.
Yeah, it's built that way so because of the winds and because how tall it is, how tall the structure is. So it's built to absorb that shock of the winds when it's swaying side to side.
Yeah, most like skyscrapers in Los Angeles and San Francisco are like that, obviously for a very different reason.
Yeah,
but yeah, I've never felt one move. I don't think
there's 3 skyscrapers in LA.
Yeah, the U.S. Bank, which is going to be rebranded in a few years, building is like, you can go on the 98th floor and it's cool because you can go outside. So like you can be in the outdoors, and it's like the largest one in North America, or the highest in North America that's outside.
Yeah.
But I mean, other than that, the rest of them are just like they're not that exciting.
I heard the John Hancock, you could get all the way to the top and outdoors, and people be having events and parties up there. And I'm like, that's pretty fucking high, especially to be outside on the roof of that place.
Yeah, it's got to be. I don't know. I just get nipply, I get super cold. Like, it's windy up there for no reason. It doesn't matter if it's the clearest day, the sun could be out. If it's windy, like, you're gonna feel it.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's a windy city.
Yeah. Yes. It was windy today. It was like, oh, what's the temperature? 68. Oh, it's beautiful. I walked out there with shorts and a t-shirt, going to work. I'm like, I'm loving this. Fucking 68 felt like freaking 42.
Then the wind hits your kneecaps, and you're like, this is a bad day.
No, it's worse when it hits your ankles.
Oh yeah, ankles. That's true. Oh, I got a good one. Since I'm not much of a gamer anymore, but I know Cody still plays, and I know he has a bone to pick with Tank about AAA.
All right, before we move ahead, hey Cody, make sure you jiggle your joystick before this.
Oh, I've been doing it, but a good little reminder. Yeah.
All right, go ahead. Ask the question.
Well, I don't have the question. So Cody was telling me.
On to me, huh?
Oh, Cody was telling me what?
I was saying. So there was an episode a little ways back where you guys were talking gaming and AAA gaming, and I was just like, I'm guilty. I'm guilty of everything Tank's saying of buying mostly AAA games and not really appreciating the independent ones as much. And but like the big part of that is, for me, like, gaming is a really social event. Like, there's only a few games I'll play by myself, and most of the other ones are, I'll wait for my brother to get on, or I'll wait for my roommate to get on, or I'll wait for a buddy to get on, and we'll play something together. And what does everybody have? The AAA games.
Of course.
That's so that's what we all play together, because that's the one that everyone's going to go get. But I actually recently picked up a new game just on a whim, like, just craving a little RTS because I haven't played a good RTS since, Age of Mythology. Way back when. So I was like, where's the good RTS games these days? And I, went on the Xbox store and I found this little game called Stellaris. Ooh, I've been playing it far too much.
After this podcast, you probably might play a game.
You're guaranteed I'll play some Stellaris tonight. But, it's a game about, you start as a civilization that just figured out faster than light travel, and you explore the galaxy and you meet all the aliens in your galaxy and you start diplomacy and start wars and all that. And it's a whole lot of fun. But like, I think, one of my big things with that is a little, my nerdiness with, it all comes back to my love of the outdoors and of the stars and astronomy and, it all comes back around. Getting outside when I was younger and loving camping and loving the night sky and, getting out and about.
Yeah.
It just seems like life is simpler when you're outside,
It does. Why is it every time you go far from the city, for example, either small towns or wilderness or open, just like desert areas or anything like that, and as soon as the nighttime comes and you just look up to the sky, it's just like, you just got to take it all in. It's like, it's not even to pull out your phone and take a picture and walk away. It's more of a, holy shit. It's just an amazing view. And you just sit there and I've been in some occasions. I went camping once, even though it wasn't considered camping. It was a camping ground. But because there was hardly any street lights, you could just see the sky and all the stars. And even though, I was a city boy, I was still, I always loved my history. And I'm over here pointing out all the constellations towards my family members, be it my cousins or my aunts, my uncles, my mother. They're like, how the hell you know all this? I'm like, I love history and astrology was on there. So
I just know, yeah.
I'm like, look,
I just know where they are.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, look, you see him right there? That's Sagittarius. That's Orion, and that's his belt. That's fucking the Dipper. That's the Big Dipper, Little Dipper. That's the Crow. That's like, I'm pointing out all these damn constellations, and they're all looking at me like, yo, this kid's too fucking nerdy. But it was just a feat. It was just like, it was amazing. Like, I'm staring up and I'm seeing all of that, and it's like, holy crap. And now with, this was before I had, this is before we had cell phones with decent internet connectivity. Now you do the same thing, pull out your phone, you could actually pinpoint all these constellations, and it's just like bring you back to when you were a kid.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's the interesting thing about like going on a backpacking trip, right? Like, you go out there and you like, I love coming home after work and playing video games and throwing, some, like, not wanting to cook, so I'll just throw something in the microwave real quick and just relax.
Yeah.
Everyone loves a nice little night in and it being quiet and easy, but you realize when you're out like in the backcountry, hundreds of miles away from civilization, that like everything you actually need is what you can carry on your back. Like, you can carry everything to survive and like live comfortably and be really happy, and you could fit all that stuff in a backpack and carry it around. Like, you don't need all this stuff. And
that was probably the one.
It's really eye-opening.
Yeah, is like for 5 days, like, I didn't need anything. I had some water, we had some food, we knew what we made the fires, like, that's it. Like, nothing else. It's just you and your thoughts, somewhere to sleep, a blanket, and that's it. Like, having all those things in one spot that you have total control over, I think that's like hard to beat sometimes. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it brings a lot out of, like, you take a lot of the stuff you have at your home for granted, and then at other times you're just like, why do I even have half this stuff? Like, you can get rid of 90% of this and I'd still be just as happy, And I think. I mean, the other thing I was going to bring up, you go out there, you have everything you need on your back, and then at the night, like in nighttime, being hundreds of miles like away from a civilization, like you were saying, Tank. No lights and stuff, like the sky just blows up with light.
Yeah.
You can see the Milky Way out there. Like, you can see stuff that, and it it's something that, I mean, for me personally, it makes me feel like so small and so insignificant.
Yeah.
And like in like the most magical and like good way.
Best
like it
way,
sounds
yeah.
really bad to be insignificant, but it makes you feel like your problems are nothing because
Right.
you're nothing. And like the vastness of the universe, like nothing actually matters. So like just be happy and be happy
Right.
with and make those around you happy.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's like you're so small, but like you affect so much, and it's mostly the people, right? Like even you guys, like I think I've always been attracted and like close to people and friends who like, I guess knew what the right things in life were. That's like sounds super cheesy and corny, but like, I don't know. I don't think I could ever have a friend that was like, oh, I need my paycheck so I can go out and buy these brand new shoes, and like then I gotta get this brand new car and then this brand like whatever, like that was never my, like, even in living in LA, that was never like the people I wanted to surround myself by. And like as I get older, I notice that like the people who stay in my life are the people who are like the complete opposite of that, which is like definitely what you guys are.
Hey, Mark, so just to let you know, when we get this podcast paycheck, I'm going to just need some new shoes and a new car.
It's got to be a used car though. It can't be splurging.
Oh, I'm splurging. Oh, man.
And what it's how about this? No one would know.
Sorry.
Repeat that?
That cut out on me.
Yeah, same here.
Uh-oh. Hello?
Yes,
Are we back?
we can hear you.
Yeah.
You just cut it out for a second.
What are you a nerd about that nobody would know about?
Oh, that nobody would know about.
Or very few people?
I don't know, man. I'm a pretty open book. I mean, I nerd out about a lot of stuff. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff. I'm a big podcast nerd. I'm a big science nerd. I'm a big true crime nerd. I'm a big soccer nerd. I'm a big climbing nerd.
I swear to God, if you're a Trekkie, I'm ending this interview right now.
No trekking for me. The only trekking I do is with my backpack on.
There you go.
I
don't know. I feel like saying that nobody would know about is super limiting for me, just because I'm a pretty open book. Most of the time, I'll tell people all about my interests.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll rephrase then. If someone was meeting you for the first time, what obsession would they find the most shocking, do you think?
That's got to go into true crime. Yeah, I mean, I'm obsessed with all the true crime podcasts, and I listen to audiobooks from FBI agents, and I don't know, it's just fascinating to me, like that dark side of humanity, and then like the light side of humanity that's like tasked with fighting that. And
Cowboys?
I mean, I was going more along like detectives and serial murderers, but
I mean, it's always that like age light, like it's like story. It's like been around the story for like as long as time, right? Good versus evil, bad versus good. Like what side of the law? Like there is no law. Like it's sort of like what side of morality are you on? And it's like there's someone on one side, and then there's someone trying to stop them. I always love that too. I think there's like you're never gonna get better stories than stories that examine those moralities, I think.
Oh yeah. Well, then there's also the cases they always seem to be the most fascinating are the ones that are not morally gray. Like the ones where like this person is very obviously an evil person.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
There's not many. I listen to true crime almost nonstop with my work and with my I want to go into CSI work and I want to be part of that field, but with that obsession comes like all this interest in that dark side of people and where they can come from. And so yeah, if I was meeting someone for the first time I mean, I actually went to a buddy's like wine night the other night and met somebody else that was a big true crime person. We ended up talking for 3 or 4 hours about like The Staircase on Netflix and that whole shenanigan of did he or didn't he do it, you know?
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, that it definitely shocks some people though. You never, especially with a guy like me where I feel like especially when I'm meeting new people, I'm very smiley, I'm very happy. And
yeah, I mean, it's also like,
if something clues me into true crime though, then it's just like a switch flips and I'm all into that dark side and examining.
Yeah, but you also have to like, yeah, it's like you're nice, and then, but it's like you also can't be like, yeah, I like to listen to, you know, serial murder podcasts for funsies, like no big deal.
Yeah, so that would definitely be up there with the shocking factor, but
I like that. That.
I feel like just to put my 2 cents in, I feel like with a lot of these true crimes, for example, Making a Murder with the what's his name, Stephen Avery case.
Yeah.
That and several others, I felt like that made us like a boom in popularity.
Oh yeah.
My mother.
Well, the true crime population is not small. Like you definitely are surprised by the amount of people that really enjoy listening to the stories.
Oh yeah.
Sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
No, but like my mother, back when we had cable, she was always about everything that was like when Court TV later became, I think, True TV, and it was everything was all about like the true crimes, murders, kidnappings, all types of crazy stuff. She was always into it. And growing up, it was like she was the only person that I knew that enjoyed that. And then now, after when Netflix dropped that Making a Murder, everybody is now a fan. It's like, yo, what the hell? I didn't know you were into this stuff. Now my girlfriend, my sister even listens to these the true crime podcasts that she finds, and that even I subscribed to one, and it was the way Buddy was describing the crime scenes or some of the cases. Like what made me unsubscribe was I forgot the case, but it was the rape and killing of a little girl, and he was a serial child molester and murderer. Right. And that I'm like, I couldn't listen anymore. I was like, I don't have it in me. I'm like, I don't understand how some people could be into this stuff and be like, oh my God, this is like crazy, it's heartbreaking. Okay, it is heartbreaking, but how do you get joy out of this?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. It really is. I mean, for me, like people, you know, because I mean, one of the big things, because I've been trying to get into the CSI work for a bit now, and I've had some success, but not enough to actually get me that final knock on the door. But you know, I've had interviews, and you know, the big thing with a lot of these law enforcement positions is, you know, like they'll ask you, why do you think that you can deal with like seeing the worst in humanity at work every day? And, you know, it comes down to like, you know, work-life balance, and it comes down to, you know, when you're on the job, you have to find ways to make it, to separate yourself from it, which I've heard, you know, lawyers talk about it. I've heard FBI agents talk about it. I've heard cops talk about it, where it's like you got to separate yourself and you've got to make it a job, or like for me as somebody that wants to go into CSI, you've got to make it a puzzle. Yeah. And you solve the puzzle, and you don't think about the fact that that's a person's life or that there's victims in this case. You think about, this is the pieces of evidence I have, and this is how I can put it together to make to get the closest to the truth as I possibly can of what happened there. Yeah. So you kind of separate it out, and then you go home at the end of the day and you deal with it there. You know, you have to separate it out, and you know, when you listen to the podcast, it's almost like you hear these crazy dark stories, and it almost just like pulls emotion out of you, which is just something enjoyable for me, like to just feel very intensely, regardless of whether that emotion is very positive or very negative. Yeah. To just like have an intense feeling after it ends, you're like, it's almost like you like almost get a high like coming down off of this negative feeling, like coming back to a baseline of contentedness after feeling really like sorrowful about what could have happened, or like, you know, if that was somebody you knew, you know. So like just coming back down to a level where you feel normal again is almost like elevating that normal to like feeling happier, just because you're at a baseline of
it's like a
good.
high. Yeah, it's like a high in itself, because it's like, if you were part of it, like I always like do the thing where it's like, I try to picture myself what I would do in that scenario or like that situation. Like, oh, how could I have done this differently? Like, what if that happened? Like, this could change the outcome that way, kind of thing. And that's always helped me like ride those like super high and super low, like emotional waves of like how you feel about things. And it's like, feeling a negative emotion isn't always bad, but it's like, how do you come back from it and get back to normal in like a healthy, non-spiraling or manic way?
Yeah.
Right.
But that's cool. I don't think a lot of people have that like perspective, and I think a lot of people just do it because they think it's like it's interesting, or like, you know, they don't know anybody like that, so they want to experience that sort of like mystery or illusion. I don't know what you would call it. Ask your mom why she's into it.
Oh, I have, and it's mainly
get back to us, Tank.
It's mainly I'm like, why? What is it about these shows that just like brings you in? And it's mainly that entertainment. She sees that as like that's her entertainment, right. And where for her, for me, it's like weird to see her like enjoying like these shows about, you know, serial murderers, rapists, killers, like all this stuff. But for her, it's weird for her to see me enjoy literally horror films and stories. Like I literally sleep with an iPad, and all it just plays is nothing but scary stories, be it a person's experience in like haunted, demonic possessions, whatever, to just somebody just creating a scary story just to, you know, be creative. And to her, is like, how can you listen to that before bed? Or how, I'm like, well, it's the same way how you could watch somebody murder like 15 people and then, you know, say that they're innocent, and they show all this gruesome stuff and evidence, and you just sit there either being tearful or just like, what the fuck, shocked. I'm like, we all have our kinks and we all have our, you know, things. So it's like, you can't judge me without me judging you. It's like, yo, that doesn't work.
Yeah, see, I'm on like closer to where your mom is at, I think, because like for me, like I like the scary stories. I listen to a few podcasts that are totally fictional, or, you know, like they're like historically based of like what people used to believe, and that has like obviously been proven false. But like, you know, it's really interesting stuff. But like for me, like one of my favorite podcasts, the tagline is like, the worst monsters are real. You know, like the scariest things you can think of are things that people have done to other people. Yeah. So,
you think the boogeyman's real? Let me introduce you to John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's the real boogeyman. That was the real boogeyman out here in Chicago. But yeah. But I always was fascinated with like paranormal, creepypastas, things like that. Like I always, to this day, I still literally go to sleep either reading stories or stuff like that, or listening and literally freaking out till I fall asleep, because I'm just afraid if I roll over, there's gonna be that creepy person at the edge of my bed just staring at me like, hey. Just start screaming. But
that's when you just gotta go outside and go camping, and you go
sleep
in your tent.
Go camping, and all the crazy stuff I heard about. Like I heard a bunch of crazy camping stories. It's like, I don't know about that, which I know for a fact is never gonna happen. I'm never gonna go camping and then run into a woods by some fucking hype fiend who lives in a shed. It's like that's like 1 in a million. I have a better chance hitting the lottery than seeing that fucker.
Facts.
Exactly. Now, I'm saying they don't exist? Highly doubt it. I feel like in every national,
there's crazy people out there.
Yeah,
Never doubt how dark some people could be.
Oh, exactly. I feel like in every national park, There's that one.
There's at least one.
There's one. There's one. But
there's one in every you're just killing national parks attendance right now.
Yeah, I know. There's just one. There's just one. But because of like how big Yellowstone or all these places are, what are the chances of you actually running with this guy?
I mean, he could be preoccupied with another family when you're there.
Exactly. So as he's feasting on somebody else's family, you're over here enjoying the woods and taking pictures of black bears and stuff. You know,
he can be building a shed that week. You never know.
He's getting himself a new lamp.
Right.
Jeez.
And this is where Cody comes in.
Boys.
And this is where Cody comes in with his with his CSI skills. Yeah, that fucker is guilty. Fingerprints all over. There wasn't even need for DNA.
You see that dude right there skinning that guy? Yeah, I think he did it.
Yeah, he definitely did it. There's not even need where they're tracing DNA for what? There was fingerprints all over the fucking place. All was his. Oh man. Yeah, we could get real dark in terms of jokes here as well. So welcome to the podcast.
Oh yeah, no, I'm into it, dude. I mean, that's like that's one thing that you gotta say. Like that's one thing I've said in my interviews for CSI jobs is like, how are you gonna cope with like seeing this dark stuff? And I was like, I think I'll use humor. I wouldn't mind being that guy that you see on the TV shows that makes a little quirky remark when he sees something terrifying, and like you got to break that tension, and you've got to work your job, and you got to go home and deal with it at the end of the day.
Yeah,
but it's going to be hard for her to win the pageant. Without a face.
Oh, man.
I've got a few.
Oh, man. And I could be...
Do you think...
And that's when Cody just brings out glasses out of nowhere. Say it again, Mark.
Do you think of them while you're listening to the podcast? Because that's hilarious.
What, quirky remarks about crimes? I don't know if you guys have brought up crimes enough for me to have come up with quirky remarks for them, but...
No, I meant like, when you listen to your crime podcast, or do you like, what would I say here?
No, I don't. I don't think I can think like that when it's like an audio. I feel like I gotta have
the
sight.
Visual.
I gotta have a visual to get something quirky really quick.
Visual learner. I understand. Oh man, I think this is a great place to wrap this thing up.
Sure about that? We'll go
we've veered a bit off of the outdoors, but
somehow we haven't.
It's a scary world out there,
Stay indoors. Don't go to the outdoors, especially national parks. There's that one crazy guy. Oh man,
The World According to Tank, podcast number 2.
The truth is out there.
Oh man, but that's not gonna stop me. I would love to go camping. Our good friend Jordan keeps inviting me and Mark out to where is it? He said Montana.
First he said Montana, then he said Utah, and then I'm just like, I'm always confused.
You're not the only one, and it's always somewhere like around those areas.
Yeah, it's never somewhere like fun to camp.
No, it's not.
Well, that's where me and Mark were perfectly balanced back in college. Like I brought the knowledge, but I was like a planning freak. Like I had to have everything planned, and I had to know where we were going in, where we were coming out, and all that stuff. And Mark was just like, "Let's go."
He's carefree.
Bring the book with you.
We had a great balance though, where we're gonna go on a hike, but where are we gonna go and what are we gonna do? And Mark would say, "Let's drive and we'll figure it out." Like,
hey, just pull over right here and go up that hill right there.
Yeah, we did it. I'll never forget Mark's birthday hike.
Oh wow.
20th birthday, almost died. No big deal.
Oh man. But yeah, I know that about Mark. Every time when we hung out, used to do things, I'll do the same thing, bro. I'm planning this stuff, get everything. He'll be like, "Come on, bro, let's just go."
I'll bring the knowledge. He brings the spontaneity.
Yeah,
it's a good balance.
We're in Vegas or whatever.
You know what's funny, guys, is now I feel like I'm the planner in like my life. I plan things for so many people, and I'm just like, this sucks.
Dude, I feel when like, you're in Chicago and I'm over here planning all this stuff. You're like, dude, just fucking this. Come on, just walk. I'm like, what the fuck? We're just he just tell, hey, Tank, what's this? I'm like, oh, Chicago Culture Museum, Cultural Center. You know, they always have shows. By the time I finish my statement, he's already walking through the door. I was like, what the fuck? I'm right behind him. He's like, is it free? I'm like, yeah, come on. I'm like, we're already in here. Let's go.
What a guy.
I know. I'm supposed to be giving you a tour of my city. Now you're giving me a tour of my own damn city. This about a bitch.
Nothing you just said is shocking to me.
No, because we're just both spitting out truth. Oh, man. But yeah, I do feel like this is a good wrap up. We are an hour in. Cody, I would like to thank you for joining us on today's episode. You know, it was a pleasure meeting you. Pleasure having you. Very insightful.
Of course. Pleasure was all mine.
Do you want to plug your stuff in case you get any massive amounts of followers? You know, get famous from us.
Where can they find you, Cody?
I mean, you follow me on Instagram at Cody Shinny, which is Cody with a K, and then Shinny is like shiny with 2 N's.
Oh, that's really good.
That's about it. I got that IMDb from acting in Marc's movie one time. Yeah, Cody Shinneman. Find me anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, you can find them on a cliff.
You can find me on the side of a rock face. Yeah, follow me on Instagram for mostly pictures of my dog.
It's a cute dog.
Yeah, he's seen him walk past a couple times. He was trying to give him a kiss, and Cody like, nope. But yeah, well, ladies and gentlemen, you know where to find us. All of our links are located in the description below. Cody's information will be also located there. If you don't feel like typing stuff in and just want a link, you lazy bastards. And that is today. Tune in for next week's episode. We'll not give you any type of hint of what we have planned. But stay tuned till next week. Thank you for joining us. Peace out, ladies and gentlemen.
Peace.